With the running order set at Atlanta, Brian and I are in to look at DraftKings, tell you who should be in your lineup, who should be a fade, as well as look at the adjusted or maybe not so adjusted outright odds board, and talk more about this week's race, all on today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack. Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, second Saturday of college football. We had NFL, and now we have NASCAR Playoffs starting this week. It's a good time to be a sports fan and a sports bettor for that matter.
It sure is. And if you don't have multiple TVs going in your office or in your house or something, I feel bad for you because there is so much happening right now. And for all my fellow DirecTV subscribers, you can still catch some of the ESPN games if you log out of your account on ESPN and just tune into the ESPN3 broadcasts. Sometimes it'd be in Spanish. Just put it on mute. Who cares?
Got to get it in wherever you can.
Exactly.
So qualifying is done. The running order is set. We know where everyone is going. From a odds board perspective, not much has changed, but we'll definitely take a look at that. But most important is we want to build some DraftKings lineups and hopefully crush this week. We'll see how it goes. As we talked about at Daytona, it's a great week to stack the back. Stack the back, baby. So let me present my screen. We can run through it and then build a couple lineups and do what we always do. So Ryan Blaney, 10-5, starting second. No, thank you. Brad Keselowski, 10-3. Joey Logano, 10-2. Denny Hamlin, 38th, 10K. The click of the century of the week. Denny Hamlin, starting 38th. He's probably going to be like 1,000% owned, but for good reason.
Yeah, Denny is probably going to be the most rostered driver in the history of NASCAR DFS, and if it was possible, he would eclipse 100% roster percentage. It sounded like they had an issue with their engine during their qualifying run, which, obviously I believe some of it, but we've seen it in the past with Denny where he's more than willing to drop to the back as soon as the green flag drops because he wants to avoid the chaos early on. And, obviously there might be something with the car, but it doesn't bother me at all. I am a little skeptical of putting him in lineups just because I know even in tournaments, he's going to be 80% rostered. So, I mean, if he does wreck out and you don't have him, you are going to have such a huge advantage on the rest of the field. And I think it might be worth it to do that in a couple of lineups.
Yep. 100% agree. Find ways to get unique. You can also find ways to get unique with Hamlin in your lineup, but you can definitely, especially at a track where carnage and nonsense is going to happen. If you're only building a handful of GPP tournament lineups and you want to just not even go there, it may end up not working out, but in the event it does, you'll win all the money. So highly recommend, as Brian pointed out. Interesting, Keselowski. He's expensive, but he's starting 19th, which is very palatable. He can move forward. He's obviously done well at these tracks. I think he could be an interesting click as well.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be difficult to do it, but I could definitely see a build where you grab both Keselowski and Denny because they're both in the playoffs. And all of the talk that we've heard this week has been stage points. And both of these guys are elite super speedway drivers. They will work their way up to the front here. Now, one caveat to this, though, is with stage one being only 60 laps and us drivers not having to pit, they may have a difficult time finding their way towards the front early on here in this race for stage one. So, you're kind of having to play against that and hoping they get there towards the middle of the race and they lead laps or they have fastest laps and stuff like that. But I think that is a little bit of a worry. And with this being a playoff race for the first time at New Atlanta, you're going to have the back markers sending caution to the wind here. And who the hell knows what is going to happen. So I would just say proceed with caution with any of the guys that are considered locks.
Yeah, well, and I think, to your point, maybe just Keselowski or just Hamlin will be pretty popular, but playing both of them and then loading up with jabronis at the back, which is at a super speedway really easy to do.
Yeah.
I think something that makes a lot of sense. Let's talk the 9Ks. Kyle Larson starting 6th, Chase Elliott 16th, William Byron 9th, Chris Buescher 17th. Once again, not a lot of interest in terms of DraftKings potential. I think Elliott starting 16th is fine, and Buescher 17th, especially if you're in on RFK as like a unit this week. But Byron and Larson, as compelling as they are most weeks, given where they're starting, it's going to be really hard to click their names.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I do think that when you go back and you look at how Atlanta originally played out here, HMS was really good. And we also have to try to remember that this does not race exactly like a Daytona or a Talladega, where making their way through the field is a little more difficult. We can get a third lane here, but it's very sketchy. And so I don't think you're going to be seeing that as often as you did at Daytona a couple of weekends ago. So I don't mind the guys that actually have decent track position to begin the race, because if they can just maintain up there. And something else that we talked about that hasn't been talked about is like Kyle Larson, if he can just get stage points here and he's 15th or wherever he's starting, like just outside, or he's starting 6th, like he can potentially win stages. Yeah. And he's going to want to do that early, because he could essentially almost lock himself into the round of 12 just by riding around up front early here and then kind of fading back towards the end, where, you might lose some placement points, but you'll get laps led. You might get some fastest laps by him moving up from 6th into the lead here. And so I don't hate going to Larson, with a lot of people probably staying away from him because of where he's starting.
Yeah, and like I'm with you. It is a little bit different than a true super speedway, so maybe there's a little more, open-mindedness to starting with somebody starting near closer to the front. I wouldn't go heavy up there. I might grab one guy. Like if you want to grab a Logano or a Larson, I could see that being making sense. But then you really want to stack the back, and that's a good way to be unique too. Is like if you're like, oh, I really want to use Keselowski or Hamlin, and trying to figure out ways to kind of get them in without everybody, all the popular clicks just being there. A Logano, a Larson, maybe even a Byron could make some sense. 8K, your boy Kyle Busch. He is your boy. You are officially Kyle Busch Stan. Welcome to the club. Tyler Reddick, also your boy, starting 23rd in the 45. Christopher Bell, 26. Martin Truex, 22nd. Get wrecked, Marty. And Ross Chastain, who doesn't even look the same without his beard. Like I don't, it's like a different person. Starting 18th. 8K range has a bunch of interesting options farther back, have the ability to move forward, elite names. Who is the most compelling from this range for you?
It's got to be the Toyotas. If they can hook up, because they all looked to have similar speed. We saw it, I believe it was Talladega earlier this year, where they were on the right strategy until they all wrecked each other. Yeah. And, with them having the vast majority of their cars in the playoffs here, I can't help but think that they're all going to be lockstep together from the get in this race. And they're going to try to make their way towards the front, so that way everybody can benefit from this. And so I don't hate just loading up on one manufacturer, especially a Toyota. For instance, if you start with like a Denny and then you just come back down here and you just put in all the JGR guys and then Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick, I wouldn't hate that.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I know we talked about it last week, but an interesting race for the non-playoff drivers that probably should have been playoff drivers, like a Bubba Wallace, like a Ross Chastain. Could this be a week where they actually pop it and perform well? And maybe you get some value. But yeah, I like that. I like that call. Maybe grab Denny and then come down and grab the 23-11 guys. We're kind of lumping in Bubba Wallace. Obviously, he starts the next range, but I mean, he makes a lot of sense. He's 7,900. Has performed well at super speedways in general. There's a lot of names here. Honestly, don't hate. Like it may feel a little uncomfortable, but just coming down to the 8K and grabbing a handful of these guys and just building your lineup from there, because I think that could be an interesting way to kind of get a little bit different.
I will say though, so when you do look at the 8K range, the guy who's the cheapest of them all, Ross Chastain, outside of him helping Daniel Suarez, he's probably the only one here that won't be under any obligation or won't even abide by any manufacturer orders to help other people, because Chastain is on record of saying like he's out there for himself and to win races. He's not out here to help others get the glory. So, I think Chastain's somebody to watch potentially as a potential race winner. Suarez was great here in the spring. He obviously won the race. And Chastain, he can throw caution to the wind, like I was talking about with those back markers, because he's not in the playoffs. So,
and we've seen him pop in the playoffs even when he's not a playoff driver.
Exactly.
He won at Phoenix, and this is obviously a good track for him. I think that's a good point. I think Kyle Busch is also sort of interesting. He's just far enough back. He was one of the favorites, still among the favorites.
Yeah, and I think I was just gonna say, I almost feel like that's to his detriment this week in terms of how many people are going to want to play him, because of the string of races that he's put together to close the regular season and how good he was here in the spring. I think he's going to be extremely popular, even starting 15th here.
Yeah, you're probably right. He's just affordable enough. He's just far back enough. Yep. And with his performance at Michigan and, as you mentioned, Atlanta in the spring, he's trending in the right direction. A lot of boxes are easy to check, and he's an easy click. So yeah, I do think that makes a lot of sense. Maybe he is somebody that you don't necessarily need to avoid, but be mindful of the other drivers you're rostering to kind of build your lineup out. Let's start in that 7K. Obviously, we talked a little bit of Bubba Wallace, but then we have Michael McDowell, Daniel Suarez starting 30th, obviously the winner in the spring, Austin Cindric, Ty Gibbs, Chase Briscoe, and Alex Bowman. I think, Bubba's easy. Suarez is pretty easy. Anybody else? Tyrone Gibbs starting 20th. I don't love Cindric where he's starting. I don't love Briscoe. Like, from a DraftKings perspective, he just scares me because he'll send it in stage 1 and not really care, and then be like, why did I wreck? I don't know. Although he managed to stay wreck-free at Daytona, so I feel like that's going to kind of balance out. But who are you most drawn to in this range?
This is going to sound disgusting, but Austin Cindric is probably the most intriguing guy on the board, simply because of the risk you would have in playing him starting 5th with all those potential lost points, but also the leg up on the rest of the field you would have if he does what he's done here in the past. Cindric has led laps in 4 consecutive Atlanta visits. He led 32 laps here in the spring. His low finish over the last 4 trips at New Atlanta is 12th. I mean, this guy is in the playoffs. He's one of the lower tier guys in the standings right now, in the playoff standings. He needs an incredible race here. And what better way to start the playoffs off than by trying to get a win here? I mean, he was right there at the end here in the spring. I don't know why people completely glance over this guy when we go to drafting tracks, because Austin Cindric is elite at super speedways. That entire Penske garage is incredible at this race type. He's got his teammate Ryan.
We glance over Austin Cindric because he's ass.
Yes, at other tracks, but when you look at super speedways, he's really good. He's got his teammate Ryan Blaney up front with him. So, I mean, he obviously immediately has a drafting partner to work with early in the race here. I do think there's a legit possibility he's up front at some point and leads 20 plus laps once again, and then he's likely there at the end. If you want to get different than everybody else, I think Austin Cindric is the perfect play because of where he's starting and everybody talking about stack the back.
If you want to play Austin Cindric, you can literally play whoever else you want. That's your differentiation.
Exactly my point.
He's going to be single-digit ownership, probably sub 5%. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely disgusting, but like,
well, and then it another interesting fact about this race though too is like when you go back to the spring event, there were 6 guys who led, I believe, right around like 20 or more laps during the race. So unlike what we saw when we first came here or in 2023, like when Logano led 140 laps, I really don't think that's going to be the case. I think you're going to see similar where there's going to be changing up front, especially as we get a little bit further into the race. Now, stage 1, like I said, with a lot of guys likely not pitting, at least the playoff guys, track position is going to be crucial, which is why I think it actually benefits you by playing somebody who's starting up front, because early on they're going to have the track position like immediately for laps led, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think having both Logano and Blaney being so good at this track, there's a good chance that even if he's not being pushed, if he's pushing one of them, he's finishing strong. He's led laps along the way. He's had a strong performance. I'm a lot more interested in Austin Cindric than I ever thought I would be. So thank you for that, Brian. I can't wait to lose all my money. Let's talk 6K. Eric Jones starting 33rd. Click of the century of the week. Todd Gilliland, no thank you. Maybe though, I don't know. He's kind of weird.
He's probably going to lead a shitload of laps.
Him and McDowell every year. Just all these front row at these Daytona, at like these speedway tracks is crazy. Austin Dillon in the top 10. Noah Gragson 13th. Josh Berry 4th. Corey LaJoie maybe starting 25th. Harrison Burton starting 12th, Justin Haley 29th, and then Ryan Preece rounds out the 6K. Bunch of variety here. You know, LaJoie makes sense. Burton makes sense, sort of. He's a little farther ahead than I'd like, but maybe that's something that kind of like people end up falling to the Haley or going up to LaJoie, and he gets basically no clicks, and then he's actually just as good, if not better, starting 12th. I guess where is your mind going as you look at this range?
I mean, obviously, like we led off the show with, like, you're going to stack the back, and then this is, although it's not quite what Daytona and Talladega offer, it is technically like a super speedway type track. Although I do think you will see some guys getting out of the gas a lot more into the corners this week as the track has aged. I don't hate going to Burton because, again, I don't think he's going to see a lot of roster percentage. And then LaJoie, Haley, they're going to be extremely rostered. And then even Ryan Preece starting 21st. I will say Josh Berry, he was really good at Daytona, and he led a ton of laps. He was up there all the way to the end. Look, in the same conversation as Austin Cindric, why would he not want to just ruin the playoffs and get a win for his SHR team and Richard Childress and all?
Yeah, well, in SHR, like short, flat, and speedways is kind of where they end up popping usually. Obviously, the end of their run.
Rodney Childers. Yeah.
We saw obviously Chase Briscoe get the win. I don't think, obviously you don't want to play Barry and Cindric and some of these guys, but you playing mixing one of them into that kind of unicorn spot, whatever you want to call it, could make some sense. And then we get real gross, but we have lots of fun. SVG, Carson Hocevar 57, John Hunter 56, Daniel Hemrick starting 14th is someone that I typically want to click on, but I want to see like 34th, not 14th. Zane Smith, Cody Ware, BJ McLeod, JJ Yaley. Zane Smith, Cody Ware, John Hunter, like they're pretty disgusting, but given where they're starting and given their salary, make for reasonable clicks for sure.
So I definitely hear that. The one thing I will say about somebody like BJ McLeod this week or JJ Yaley, for instance, is that with this being a 1.5 mile track and us having that very unique pit road entrance here, guys likely losing a lap when they pit, unlike at Daytona, unlike at Talladega. And when you consider the fact that these guys are running non-regular pit crews, there's a lot more possibility of mistakes here on pit road and speeding, them just wrecking in general. I'm not as optimistic as I normally am on guys like that. I would be more inclined to go with somebody who's got a teammate who runs well here, like a Hocevar or a Nemechek, just because their cars can keep up with speed if they catch a smaller pack. Whereas like a BJ McLeod or a JJ Yaley, like they're in suboptimal equipment. And if they're in a 2 to 3 car pack, like they may get lost in the pack.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. With that being said, let's build some lineups.
Let's do it.
Click of the century of the week to start out. Do you want to just go down to the 8K and get nuts? Like, where do you want to start?
I think it's complete. I think the best way to start this would be the 2 easiest clicks for me right now. Denny Hamlin.
Okay.
Austin Cindric.
That's certainly a statement. The easiest click in Austin Cindric.
Look, he's the most rostered guy in Denny. There's no way he's finishing there unless he wrecks. And the guy with the largest upside based on roster percentage and all of that. Yeah. In my opinion.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go Trackhouse.
Ooh, baby, that's so disgusting, but I love it. All right.
The other nice thing is, like, this puts us in a spot where we don't have to dive down if we don't want to. Like, if we, we're concerned about the speed the cars may show, some of the pit road issues, some of the other, shenanigans, building like this allows us to put another couple 8K guys in and not even worry about going down there, or do like a 9K and then like one of these high 6, low 7 guys. So I like where the flexibility it gives us for sure.
Yeah, this is so disgusting. All right. Let's put Justin Haley in this lineup.
Okay. That gives us literally anything.
Yeah, anybody you want.
Anyone I want. Ooh. Do we do Toyota? Do we... Keselowski is compelling. Easy click. Obviously, we have enough differentiation that doesn't matter.
Chase Elliott. Like Kez.
Yeah, I think Kez is the right click.
Like, if you were to tell me any one of these guys, even Justin Haley, won this race, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, no, I think it makes a lot of sense. Lineup saved. Let's build another one. NASCAR. Okay. Let's do the Toyota thing. Let's do Red Dog.
Got to do Bubba. Yeah, got to do.
Chris Bell, Ty Gibbs.
I mean, just stack them all in there. Shit.
Yeah, I guess we could. That gives us 9K per. We could do Hamlin, and that gives us the 8K, which is like a Truex. No, I don't know if we can get there. Let's see.
Yeah, put Denny in there. Just miss out on Truex.
The other thing.
Well, I was just gonna say, if you do Denny, then you can put like either Eric Jones or Nemechek in there.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Just load up on Toyotas and not worry about it.
Now, okay, just question though. Would you rather have Ty Gibbs or Martin Truex Jr.? Truex has actually been running well at super speedways. And yes, he effed it last week. I'll give you that. Believe me. Nobody was... Well, I find it hard-pressed that anybody could have been as upset at him as I was. But, I'll leave that to each their own.
I have no interest in Martin Truex Jr.
All right. I'm good with that. So Jones or Nemechek is the question then. I mean, it was Nemechek.
I guess my question is how comfortable are we, and in terms of roster percentage, do we need to get off of? Do we need to leverage this lineup a little bit or a lot of it?
I mean, how many people are going to load up a lineup with one manufacturer? And basically 75% of that manufacturer.
Yeah. I mean, probably not a ton. It's also Nemechek and Jones, at least based on the projections, are pretty close in terms of roster percentage. So, but if we do, so if we go to Jones, we're saving like 1,000. If we go to Nemechek, we're saving like 2,000, 2,500. I think Eric Jones is the click.
Yeah, let's look at how disgustingly beautiful that is.
That's the best. All right, let's create a third one. You give me the name. Any name. One name. Any name.
Kyle Larson.
Okay. Chase Elliott.
Oh, no. Better add Bowman in there then.
Wow. We're really doing it.
Yeah,
I think we avoid Denny with this one. We don't have to get crazy.
Oh, he's starting 11th though? Hold on.
He's starting 11th. That's not great.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough placement differential. I do think that this is a decent lineup if you play like a Stenhouse.
I was just looking at that.
Because of where he's starting. Yeah.
Let's do Nemechek in this one because we didn't use him in the last one.
All right.
I think we get a little more comfortable with this. I just don't want to click Denny's name. So we could do Brad and Busher. We could do Suarez and something. We could do Chastain and something. I mean, I guess we could click both, but I think I'd rather do something a little different.
Honestly, as gross as it is, I'd probably rather play Chastain than Suarez.
Okay.
I think because you're getting a little bit less roster percentage on there.
Brad K? Or do you want to get a little different?
I don't hate Brad K.
I just think he fits really well. Like we have the salary for him. Busher's fine too at 10-7 at 9 starting 17th.
I apologize. I'm in the process of breaking news that
Jordan Love is broken.
Jordan Love is expected to miss 3 to 6 weeks.
Ooh. Not what you're looking for, Bob. Yeah. I'm gonna go Keselowski. It's interesting.
I like Kez because of the playoff factor here.
Well, and he's also $300 more and starting like twice or half the distance to the front. I don't know. He started 19th instead of 38, whatever that it means.
Yeah. Well, so again, if you go back to the spring, obviously it's going to be a completely different race. There's a lot different weather, different track conditions, all that stuff. Half of the top 10 finishers all started the race inside the top 10.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously you need that placement differential for DK points, but you also want to have decent finishing results. And if you can get a guy in the middle of the pack who's really good at this track type.
Do you want to punt on Elliott and go to Busher?
No, I actually like Chase here.
Yeah.
I mean, Chase has a win here. And I believe it was like the first year that we came here. He was incredible.
Yeah. Well, he finally won in Atlanta. It was like his long tradition of not winning
home
there.
track. Yeah.
Okie doke. I I think we did it. I think we won $1 millionaire or whatever the top prize is this week. I'm sure it's with all the football stuff. It's not going to be very much, but that's okay.
Yeah, I
Let's
saw
talk.
some other smart DFS NASCAR people tweeting about how DK has really cut back on like top prize and all that type of stuff on the NASCAR stuff going
on. Yeah. And I appreciate everyone who's still hanging around talking NASCAR with us. I know with football starting, it's easy to get sidetracked. So we appreciate everybody
damn
who's
football.
Still, it's the best, but it definitely cannibalizes people's attention.
Yeah.
So far, Brian and I have 2 bets each. We're very much keeping it within range. Although I could see us by the time we post this and post our newsletter, aoppodcast.substack.com. Once again, aoppodcast.substack.com. You can check out our full betting card there. You can check out DFS thoughts. You can find links to the episodes. You can find a bunch of stuff. So go subscribe. It's completely free. It drops in your email inbox every race day. We have the playoffs left, so get in now. And then obviously we'll be back for the season in 2025, which is a crazy statement. I have Harry Burton and Chase Briscoe, 80-1, 40-1. Brian has Gilligang, 40-1, and LaJoy at 66. Let's go look at the outright board. BetMGM is up to date. As we were looking at this stuff pre-practice qualifying, the numbers were a little skewed, so make sure you're always shopping if you have access to multiple books. That being said, Blaney is your favorite, 10-1. Logano, 10-1. Kez, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Byron, McDowell, Elliott, Busher, Cindric, all is kind of, and then Alex Bowman starts the 20-1 range. So let's stop it there. Cindric at 18. Chase Elliott at 18.
I can't do it. Like obviously I know that that's a good number on these guys, but with the added just uncertainty surrounding the playoffs at this race, I'm pretty gun shy this week in unloading a clip here, because I do think it's going to change the way that this race unfolds, especially early on with these guys that are in the playoffs fighting for stage points. And so, it's going to be more difficult for guys to make their way through the field because playoff contenders are going to be like blocking a lot more aggressively. And I'm not interested in really playing anybody that's sub 20, really. Like, it's got to be longer than 20 or 25 for me really to even begin to get interested, I think.
Suarez at 25 is interesting. I'm looking at Win the Race's front runners rankings, and he's 3 of the last 5 Atlanta races, he's top 5. And if you tell me he's going to be in the top 5 and have a chance to win at 25-1, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think Chastain at 25 is fine. I think Bubba at 25 is fine.
Yeah, I like the Bubba price. I don't dislike that at all. I'm glad I got in on Gilly when I did.
Yeah.
Although what's weird about that is, like, why didn't books bake the fact that he was the second shortest odds to win the poll into his pre-qualifying number? Like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Because they're all independent markets and they don't think that through. Then they probably have some intern who doesn't really even know NASCAR doing it.
I mean, I guess they could be looking at it from the perspective of, ooh, we're gonna fool all these schmucks into betting Todd Gilliland at a good number when he should be this, but you have little to no chance of cashing this anyways.
Eric Jones at 50, Stenhouse at 50.
Yeah, I'd probably rather. Well, no.
Burton's down to 50, even though he's open to 80.
Yeah,
it's easier for these guys to move, though.
Yeah. I do think Dylan at 60. I just
Dylan
saw that.
50 is interesting.
Uh-huh.
Especially if you feel like RCR is actually showing up and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that one I don't hate. I think it's going to be really imperative to try to figure out who would be more inclined or who would follow manufacturer orders here at the end of the race, and who wouldn't?
Yeah. I think it's also a good week to look at manufacturer finishes. I think a Suarez could make sense. I think some top Toyota guys, especially with the names that they have, there could be potential value there. I'm going to be looking at those for sure for a betting card.
Yeah, the Bubba one I actually don't hate. So I will say this on the show. I will be adding Bubba on an outright to the card in some capacity. I want to shop the numbers to see if I can still get that 20. There was 28, I believe, I saw prior to qualifying. So if that's still out there, I'll add that. But if not, I'll take the 25.
Okay. Yeah, I think Bubba's compelling. I'm tempted to add the Trackhouse guys.
Look at it. I think Chastain
is Suarez really going to win 2 Atlanta races in the same year?
I very unlikely.
Yeah.
Like we have yet to have a repeat winner at New Atlanta. So
yeah. And we stacked up the Toyotas, but do we actually think any of the Toyotas can win or worth betting at the current numbers?
I mean, I do think also, just looking back real quick, Chevrolet has won 4 of the first 5 New Atlanta races, for what it's worth.
I'm adding Chase Elliott.
Chase Elliott was the second one of them to do it.
I'm adding the 18-1. I'm going to shop the numbers as they start to post. We're recording this kind of in the middle of the day on Saturday. Yeah, so not every book has been up, but we're happy that MGM actually had odds to discuss. But I'm adding Elliott 18 versus, like a 20 or 22 of these guys. I feel like is fine. I feel like if it's any shorter, then I'm not. Like if it was 14 or something, I'd be out. But 18, I can get in on. I think Cindric top 4 could be fun, but he's pretty short on the outright, so I'm a little worried that price is not going to be as interesting as I kind of hope it will be.
And as we're sitting here talking about this, if I can get Cindric at 20, I will play it. I'm going to say that right now on the show. I will play Cindric at 20.
I got Briscoe at 40. He's now 20. And I got Burton at 80. He's now 50. So feeling pretty good about that. I don't think either will actually win, but could be fun. I think both those guys make sense as manufacturer or like top 5s or something.
And let me also shout out, if any books that are available to you post plus money matchups, like legit plus money matchups.
Yes.
Play them because
yeah. I don't think they haven't really been doing that, but
yeah. Outside of the ones that I texted you.
Yeah. If you have, what was that? Bet365 or BetUS?
Yeah, BetUS.
Yeah.
There were some pretty tasty matchup odds.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Because Caesars just posted. So I'm looking.
Oh, they did.
What's Chase Elliott here? Chase Elliott is he's 18. I'll say he's 20. I was like, ooh, 22 on Bubba.
I was just gonna say I don't really understand why the books take so long to post after qualifying for a super speedway. That doesn't change anything.
One would think. Burton is still 60 here, so if you want some Harrison Burton in your life, I think Austin Dillon at 60 is fun too.
Yeah. Starting top 10 too.
Oh, I guess he's 60 at both. I was thinking it was better, but yeah. All right, Brian. I think that pretty much sums it up for this episode. Brian has Gilliland and LaJoy from Pre. He's going to add Bubba Wallace and potentially Austin Cindric, depending on what numbers we get. I have Burton and Briscoe. You can still get Burton at a decent, but not the 80 that I got. Briscoe has gone a little too far, but I think if you can get him north of 30, he's fine. It's just it's hard to see either of those guys winning multiple races, but
Yeah.
if the number works at a track where I think they can perform, I will happily jump on. I think Chase Elliott's my favorite bet right now. Bubba's pretty interesting at 25. I don't hate the Trackhouse guys. Those guys are on my short list. What I do beyond there, I'm not really sure. Like I said, I'm going to get into some manufacturer bets. I'm going to get into potentially some long shot matchups. If I can get like a 2 or 3 to 1 on a driver, I will definitely be open to that. Build some.
Let me also add real quick too on Caesars. I know they do stage matchups. Keep an eye on those when they drop, because of the instance that we may not have pitting actually occurring, and whether or not it's a playoff driver versus a non-playoff driver is going to play a major role into their strategy for stage 1. You might get some pretty good opportunities there to make some money.
Yeah. And then Caesars has Kyle Busch and Lando Norris to both win at almost 24 to 1. So if you want some Kyle Busch in your life and you don't really like the 10 or 12 to 1, it's kind of interesting. Lando's been really good, and
ever since F1 doctored the cars, man, they had the doctor of the sport.
Brian, is your tinfoil hat on the shelf behind you, or is it?
It's in the kitchen in the oven right now.
For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the race. Let's cash some winners. Let's win on DraftKings. And we'll be back next week to talk about round 2 of the, or I guess race 2 of the round of 16.
Playing, baby.
As NASCAR Playoffs rolls along. We'll talk to you guys next time.